will be of Mr. Naresh Duble, Head of Education and Healthcare Business, Armstrong World Industries India Private Limited. Mr. Naresh, please invite him with a round of applause, please. Thanks.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the gift of your time and attention. What I'm going to speak in next 5 to 7 minutes is a little transforming, more of a common sense. As I said on the slide, university are for students, but common sense is most uncommonly practiced when it comes to business environment. And I'm going to talk about sound and acoustics. Sound and acoustics and its implication on learning and teaching. It's good to have a great teacher and a good building and a good students, but if they can't interact with each other, how good is the facility? Next slide. Yeah. So for learning output to be world class, what we need is an interaction between teacher and student. So our student sitting in a class should be able to understand what teacher is saying, assimilate and reproduce in exam. Then only we say that student is a good or that university is good. For that, there are two things to happen. One is extreme clarity of the sound, which is function of architecture and acoustics. Like this room has some good acoustics. All rooms are not so good. And once we achieve that, we need to protect it from mechanical noise, the AC noise, the fan noise, the teaching in the next class is the noise in this class. And these are critical barrier for effectiveness of education in higher education currently. And we'll see case studies coming up. So we gone across the country, did around 20 studies. We studied more than 50 institutes, their classroom, understanding what is the background noise level they have and what is the reverberation time they have. Now, when you talk about acoustics, normally we know about background noise level and we know this is a noise level. But what we don't know much about is reverberation time. Now, when reverberation time, as you see out there, is more than 1 second or 1.5 seconds, what happens is, if I say in 1 second, hi, how are you? When I say you, hi is still in the air. So it brings down the clarity of the words spoken. And all of you must have some experience speaking in a room where you don't feel comfortable. You're listening to your own voice and people sitting across to you are not getting you clearly. It doesn't help. So there is a treatment done, acoustical treatment like what you see, a ceiling board which is Armstrong up there, which absorb the sound, which bring down the reverberation time. And there's an impact on a background noise also. So background noise goes down, the clarity improves, there's a better communication. So next, I'm presenting a couple of case studies from university. And this is before doing the treatment. And mostly we have 1.5 to 2 seconds reverberation in our universities. And that's how we are producing backbencher as a backbencher, not because he's not good, he's sitting in a backbench, And this is volume, please. So going to present a case study which is before and after. This is a professor from Central University of Rajasthan speaking in his class before the treatment. We've taken 2 identical rooms.
Sounds unbelievable. I do not know whether it is correct or not.
So how many times you have similar experience of room sounding pretty weird, right? Yeah, thank you. So when you treat this classroom,
-4 sounds unbelievable. I do not know whether it is correct or not. 1.58 actually, which is after the treatment that we are getting this.
So that's a difference. 0.5 seconds reverberation in an empty classroom is sound like that. So we have done this for a larger room, which is for 120 class, and this is what he's saying after that.
Say?
This is the larger room.
Now this is a mathematics classroom where treatment was done with the ceilings here, and you find a huge difference in the quality of sound that we make, and it's actually impossible to teach in another classroom which is unrated because of a lot of echo that we have. In fact, some of these classrooms can be good echo chambers, but the moment the ceiling treatment is done, there is a huge difference in the quality of sound that we find.
So it was around 3 seconds. And once you experience what is good classroom, he's saying it's impossible to teach in the other classroom which do not have the treatment done. So it is like a water to the fish. You know, if you ask fish what is the water, like he'll say, I don't know, because you are into it. But the moment you experience something else, you can know the difference between teaching in a right class and a not in a right class. And there are other rooms in the same university campus. This is a very expensive university, as in very recent one, very well designed one. This is another area.
What you are saying?
The international conference is already being organized in this particular one.
You know, this is the proof of it.
So when we visited the place, you know, the conference was already done there a couple of weeks back, and this is how it sounds. And don't get surprised, like when you go back after this session and we listen to your rooms, just go to the room and clap when it is not occupied. You would know how much reverberant the room is. If the reverberation is more than a half seconds, you will get the echo to your ears. For that, background noise level should be low. So do it in the morning or the night, you would know exactly what it means. So there is possible to treat these rooms, and you know, our team can actually come over. We have done this with K-12 also. I will not dwell with this thing. There are when we ask student before the treatment, how is the room? Do you follow the session? They say all perfect, because we all are scoring marks, right? We all are getting our deliveries done there. But when you do the treatment and after 1 week you ask them, they exactly know the difference. And out here, because this is K-12, we're asking the teachers to give a feedback, what they felt like teaching in such environment. And this is what they're saying.
When a teacher is teaching in the room where ceiling is installed, has to give lectures in a low pitch, and where the ceiling is not there, very high pitch they have to teach. Children sitting at the back were not able to concentrate, they were not able to hear the voice of the teachers who are not very loud, and we need to shout, and then the children used to get frustrated also that the teacher is always shouting all the time instead of getting a good rapport with the teacher, even though he or she was a good teacher. But here, when the teacher is able to talk properly, he or she can concentrate on the teaching, and throughout the day the teacher feels teaches at the same pace starting in the morning till the end of the day. Whereas where the ceiling is not installed, the teacher in the first and second sessions is very good while teaching, but when it comes to the end of the day, the teacher also gets frustrated, and then the lecture is not given properly.
My name is Naresh Duble, and I have been teaching over past 10-11 years, and I typically take a lot of classes in a day, and it is very vital for me if I am speaking at a low pitch, and by the treatment that we had here back in Resonance, I could lower my volume while speaking. That would save a lot of energy throughout the day, and it helps me immensely to teach students more energetically. Plus the sound clarity also improved. Like previous time I used to switch off either fans or something so that I may exert less energy while speaking, but now I'm very much comfortable with it, and I find it to be very useful. And the class environment, my temperament, my mood, everything goes very nicely, and I'm very much satisfied with it.
Sound is very important medium for instruction. So actually आगे ये ज़्यादा इतना डेवलप नहीं हुआ, और ये एक हिडन फैक्टर है कि इस पे किसी ने कभी सोचा नहीं कि जो हम इंस्ट्रक्शन डिलीवर करते हैं वो स्टूडेंट के पास पहुंचता है कि नहीं. सो इससे ये जानने को मिला कि जो साउंड है वो क्लासरूम के अंदर एक इंटरनल अफेक्ट करता है. अगर उसको हम क्लियर कर पाए तो हमारी इंस्ट्रक्शन प्रॉपर लास्ट खास करके जो बैक बेंचर्स है वहाँ तक पहुँच सकती है. सो इसके लिए जो सर ने बताया कि हमको साउंड एब्जॉर्ब हो जाए ऐसी कोई सीलिंग लगानी चाहिए. सो प्रॉपर वेंटिलेशन भी होना चाहिए, और क्लासरूम में एक एरिया होना चाहिए कि जहाँ से साउंड की इंटेंसिटी कांस्टेंट तो नहीं बोल सकते, लेकिन इतनी होनी चाहिए कि जो बैक बेंचर से वो उसको सुन सके. फॉर एग्जांपल 30 and 13. अब मैं लास्ट बेंचर्स को बोलता हूँ 30, then he write 13. और अगर उसको बोला 30 बोला तो बोलेगा 30. ओके, सो ये मेन डिफरेंस है. ये तो सिर्फ एक एग्जांपल हुआ. ऐसे कई ज़्यादा एग्जांपल्स हैं. पर AEI वो इंग्लिश सब्जेक्ट है तो उसमें AE का इसमें ज़्यादा मिक्सिंग हो सकता है. बहुत सारे वर्ड्स हैं. सो इसको ठीक करना चाहिए. तो हम जितनी मेहनत मोटिवेशन में करते हैं, एजुकेशनल पर्पस में करते हैं, स्मार्ट क्लास लगाते हैं, कंसेप्ट क्लीन करते हैं, तो इस पर तो ज़्यादा खर्च भी नहीं है. तो इसको करना चाहिए, तो ये ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट करेगा.
So he very appropriately said, you have to invest once in your building. It doesn't cost you more than 100 rupees a square feet, so 50,000 rupees per class kind of an investment. If you have 40 classroom, 20-25 lakh kind of investment, but for lifetime of the building. And every session, every class which happens, you have a connection between teacher and student happening. So we can come over, we have people across, around 80 people working in Armstrong, our technical marketing people. They can come, they will assess your rooms, they will give you proper solutions so that sound clarity can be achieved in those learning places. So we say, who is at more risk? There's a risk to the teacher and there's a risk to the student. I won't delve much on it. How many of you know about TED? Yeah, so TED is a global platform where best in the world come and speak. Julian Treasure is a 5-time TED speaker and picked up 2 minutes presentation slot about sound in education from global perspective. What is he saying about sound in education?
Education. When I see a classroom that looks like this, can you imagine how this sounds? I'm forced to ask myself a question. Now, that's a little unfair. Some of my best friends are architects, and they definitely do have ears, but I think sometimes they don't use them when they're designing buildings. Here's a case in point. This is a £32 million flagship academy school, which was built quite recently in the UK and designed by one of Britain's top architects. Unfortunately, it was designed like a corporate headquarters with a vast central atrium and classrooms leading off it with no back walls at all. The children couldn't hear their teachers. They had to go back in and spend £600,000 putting the walls in. Let's stop this madness of open-plan classrooms right now, please. It's not just these modern buildings which suffer. Old-fashioned classrooms suffer too. A study in Florida just a few years ago found that if you're sitting where this photograph was taken in the classroom, row 4, speech intelligibility is just 50%. Children are losing 1 word in 2. Now, that doesn't mean they only get half their education, but it does mean they have to work very hard to join the dots and understand what's going on. This is affected massively by reverberation time, how reverberant a room is. In a classroom with a reverberation time of 1.2 seconds, which is pretty common, this is what it sounds like.
In language, infinitely many words can be written with a small set of letters. In arithmetic, infinitely many numbers can be composed from just a few digits with the help of the symbol 0.
Not so good, is it? If you take that 1.2 seconds down to 0.4 seconds by installing acoustic treatments, sound-absorbing materials, and so forth.
In language, infinitely many words can be written with a small set of letters. In arithmetic, infinitely many numbers can be composed from just a few digits with the help of the symbol 0.
What a difference. Now, that education you would receive, and thanks to the British acoustician Adrian James for those simulations. The signal was the same, the background noise was the same, all that changed was the acoustics of the classroom in those 2 examples. If education can be likened to watering a garden, which is that's a fair metaphor, sadly, much of the water is evaporating before it reaches the flowers, especially for some groups. For example, those with hearing impairment. Now, that's not just deaf children. That could be any child who's got a cold, glue ear, an ear infection, even hay fever. On a given day, 1 in 8 children fall into that group on any given day. Then you have children for whom English is a second language, or whatever they're being taught in is a second language. In the UK, that's more than 10% of the school population. And finally, after Susan Cain's wonderful TED Talk in February, we know that introverts find it very difficult to relate when they're in a noisy environment doing group work. Add those up, that is a lot of children who are not receiving their education properly. It's not just the children who are affected, though. This study in Germany found the average noise level in classrooms is 65 decibels. I have to really raise my voice to talk over 65 decibels of sound. And teachers are not just raising their voices. This chart maps the teacher's heart rate against the noise level. Noise goes up, heart rate goes up. That is not good for you. In fact, 65 decibels is the very level at which this big survey of all the evidence on noise and health found that that is the threshold for the danger of myocardial infarction. To you and me, that's a heart attack. It may not be pushing the boat out too far to suggest that many teachers are losing significant life expectancy by teaching in environments like.
So there's a risk to the teachers also out here. What I want to conclude saying is a connection between teacher and student. We will have technology, we will have people learning outside the classrooms and everything, but when you meet in a room, it is where the transformation will happen. So India